Yesterday, the Trump administration made headlines for a massive amount of pardons for Trump loyalists, specifically pardons for Todd and Julie Chrisley, who were convicted in a scheme to swindle banks out of tens of millions of dollars. Trump called their daughter, Savannah, to announce the pardon. Something else was on folks' minds, though. Who's the black woman behind Donald Trump? Well, we'll tell you. This is newly minted pardon czar, Alice Johnson. Do you remember her? Let's give you some background about Alice. Trump famously pardoned Johnson in 2018 after she served more than 20 years of her life sentence in prison for a 1996 drug trafficking conviction. The Mississippi grandmother became the face of President Trump's First Step Act, a bipartisan law that made several reforms to the criminal justice system, including lowering criminal penalties for nonviolent crimes. Who could argue with that? Okay? He did something good. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut sometimes. Do something good. Before a recent elevation at the Trump White House, Johnson spent her life after prison as a vocal criminal justice reform advocate. So here she is. And here are the critics too. They say while Johnson's advocacy is noble, it falls flat with some of President Trump's latest pardons, which include Paul Wolczak, former nursing home exec who pled guilty to withholding employees' taxes used to fund his luxurious lifestyle. Scott Jenkins, former sheriff in Culpeper County, Virginia. He was convicted in 2024 of campaign bribery and conspiracy. Thank you to our friends at the Griot. There was a little trend in the lot of folks pardoned. All those pardoned by Trump were supporters of Trump or had familial connections to those who supported his presidential campaigns. Not to mention they were pardoned for white-collar crimes similar to those which Trump was convicted or accused of committing. Sounds like pay to play. Trump also pardoned YoungBoy, never broke again. I gotta get through the series here. Okay? He pardoned YoungBoy, never broke again. And Fox and Friends co-host Brian Kilmeade didn't seem to like that, even though yesterday he was cheering for Todd and Julie Chrisley. So shall we look at that?
A couple of rappers have come out, or let's say one in particular, YoungBoy. One of his lyrics in 2017 that he put out is F Donald Trump. Had some more disparaging things to say. He had a violent past of assault and battery, multiple cases of that, and firearm, drug, and fraud charges. What sold you on him getting a second chance?
Well, it's free speech, okay? I'm gonna now download the song.
It's not a crime.
Well, if you do not pledge your allegiance to the king, it is apparently. Let's give you more. Political strategist Amisha Cross, who noted that making Johnson the White House pardon czar is meant to send a message. Here's what Amisha Cross, our friend, said. Donald Trump is good at one thing. It's really messaging and messaging strategy. He's using somebody who can speak to the black community, but it's also a symbol to say that she was done wrong by the system. He's hoping that transfers to these individuals that he has most recently pardoned. Smart, Amisha. While Johnson understands the calls from the black community, Trump's pardons were not related to black and brown individuals who've been disproportionately sentenced due to the failed war on drugs, but rather were reflected by wealthy white Americans. These are folks who are taking advantage of the common man. These are folks who skirted taxes. These are folks who scammed for millions of dollars, so it's not the same thing. Richey Colbert, political expert, argued that Johnson's role reflects how Trump has tokenized black people in his orbit. If I had spent as much time as Alice spent in prison, wanting desperately for a second chance, Kim Kardashian helped raise the profile of her case. I don't even want to, I'm not saying that once out, you're not accountable or you shouldn't be responsible to greater society to elevate. I don't know how I feel about her though, Woes. Sure, she's a pawn. Sure, she's tokenized. I don't believe she ever watched Chrisley Knows Best or knows who these dippy people are. She's standing by the president and grateful, which I can understand, that she's free to stand by the president. What say you?
I think it's a little unfair to characterize the Trump pardons as having some like consistent white narrative thrust to it. There's just like a lot of black people have been pardoned by Trump. It just seems like if you're willing to pay, he's gonna get it done for you. A couple of people like Harry O, who was provided some of the seed money. Some people say drug money, but it was seed money for Death Row Records. Was like an entrepreneur here in LA. He got out via the Trump pardon. Kodak Black, the rapper, got a Trump pardon. I mean, the freaking mayor of New York, although it was a pardon, he got his charges dropped. Larry freaking Hoover, the founder of the Gangsta Disciples in Chicago, one of the biggest gangs in the history of America, just got pardoned. Like, it's not, I don't think it's fair to say there's just this white thing. I think it's corrupt.
Yeah.
It's pay to play. It seems ugly. I don't know. I don't think this is how presidential pardons should be going. I just don't know that we should be tarring this lady who's got a job, by the way, which, and especially in this administration, there's a lot worse jobs to have working for Donald Trump. I think about what the ICE agents are doing and stuff like that. I'm not gonna go too hard on this lady who's gonna, be the face of these pardons that are going to happen anyway.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. And I might have said that, Alice was pardoned. Her sentence was commuted, which does give me pause because it seems like a lot of times the blacks, where are my blacks at? Remember he used to say, he used to get me
Where
hot.
are my blacks?
Where are my blacks? Where are my blacks? Yeah, and then bad people blacks for Trump. Now, come on. But it did seem like, and it's just my perception perhaps, I haven't done the numbers, that most of the blacks would be commuted, the whites pardoned. But I think you're right. I don't even know if we need to focus on that. I tend to leave Alice out of it. And I think Amisha's right too. Amisha Cross, the great commentator, to say that, look, he wanted her in that role to signal to, I told you, why not come over here? What are they doing for you? But he's transactional. What's in it for him is what's best. And if you're paying, hey, you got a shot. And I think that you make a smart point. I was hoping to disagree with you couple times this show. We may still get it in, but he's just transactional. There's no other way of looking at it.